Running Sentences presents Tangled in a Criminal World. Part 8. Mere Meetings. Micha confronts Vance, now on more equal footing. At least he hopes so, though admittedly he's making it up as he goes along and remains unsure of what's going on, because no one's bothering to explain anything, as always. This story is written and narrated by Michael. It is a work of fiction, so any names, characters, businesses, events, and situations within this story are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to real people, situations, characters, businesses, events, and/or fictional businesses, characters, events is purely coincidental. Copyright 2024, Michael. All rights reserved. Micha charged into the farmhouse, not sure what he expected, other than Vance. The one-room space, though, that greeted him seemed quiet and looked mostly abandoned. Tables, chairs, and cooking tools, and a bed, were all strewn about, just laying about there. The remnants of the people who'd lived here, obviously, though it was all abandoned, and what he couldn't see, though, was the man he was looking for. We may have been lied to. Yes, Bree, and what do we do if that is the case? I don't know. You're the one who's so eager to see this man. Well, he's trying to do something dastardly that will throw everything out of whack, so of course I'm gonna try and head him off. And you weren't doing that before? When you came to me trying to help the young woman with magic? Awakening power in that way tends to result in fights for power. He frowned at that, knowing that he couldn't refute it, because it was true. It was also true that he wasn't really a part of any of it, he tried to do something nice. Well, this is different from that, and this is much worse, since we don't know what he's up to. We knew what I was up to, and we knew we can control that of some sort. How different is it really, Micha? I don't know. I'm making this all up as I go along, since this is all new to me. All this is just so I can be free and go back to what I was used to in life. Is that what this is all about? Vance appeared from the shadows, leaning on a cane and looking directly at him. Finding out what you're trying to do? Yes, that is all of what this is all about. Yes, Micha declared. Why didn't you say so in the first place, young Micha? But you had already figured that out from the start. It hardly needed me saying, unless you really are so caught up in your own schemes that you didn't think I needed to know. Can we cut to the chase to you and to where you surrender, Mr. Vance? And why would I do that, Miss Witch? To make life easier for everyone? Well, I can't do that. Now that I'm so close, I'm sure that you understand. Micha took a step forward, trying to control his anger and frustrations at the moment. It seemed like everything was slipping away from him already. We would understand on a much better scale if you told us what you were planning so that we could, act against it. You always need a rival. I am not a fool, Mr. Micha. I will tell you nothing, and you cannot leave here alive. Well, I tried to do this reasonably, and I'm sure you know how to fight, but so does this witch. Again, with telling people things before they need to know them. Oh, Bree, I'm sure he already recognized you. He's been around the royals, after all. Yes, I do recognize the witch, Bree, and I'm not afraid of a little magic. She isn't all that powerful. Since we're giving away information, I may not be all powerful, and I do have a few tricks, but he actually is. She points her thumb towards Micha, who looks on surprised and dumbfounded. He shakes his head no, but a look from Vance says the man sort of expected this, and with the way he was grinning, it just seemed like he was 2 steps ahead of him. Is he now? Well, partially, because his powers have just recently awoken, meaning he doesn't really know control, so you might want to be careful with that. And why would I be afraid of that? Fire? Excuse me, Mr. Micha, what was that? Are you trying to scare me by saying that this farmhouse is on fire, or that you can produce fire? A bit of both, really. Vance narrowed his eyes, studying him for a second, and then sniffing at the air for signs of smoke. His eyes also flitted about the room, taking in as much as he could. A bit of both, really. You are a terrible liar, Micha. In response, Micha lit his hand on fire, though he had only intended to light up his fingers. The flames then splashed off, touching down onto the dirt floor and jumping all about. I guess we could have a fight to find out if it's true or not. 2 against 1 is unfair, and I am not used to it. Now you start objecting? A second ago you seemed to want to take this whole thing on. You seem to want to kill us. New information comes in and shows that things won't go my way, which, of course I will say something about that. Micha, with no real idea of how to fight with magic, both of his fists ready to box, and stepping even closer to Vance. So let's fight then. Not without some rules, of course. There was no more time for this. This man was clearly delaying them for some reason. Micha took a few steps forward, bracing himself but not getting too close, since there was no way to tell what would happen. We fight here and now, Micha demanded. I don't want to. Vance took a few steps backwards, and in a flash was suddenly gone from sight. No sound or movement witnessed aside from the few steps, just there and then gone. Micha took a tentative step forward, looking and listening, even though he wasn't sure what he was listening for. So he's a magic user himself. Interesting to see things are going this way, Bree said after a moment. Why? With a curious look, Micha raises an eyebrow to Bree. It means that magic is multiplying and more people are awakening whatever powers they have. Though I'm willing to guess that they probably won't be as strong as the original batch. Having continued his look about the place and taking in more than a few steps around this one-room building, Micha was not paying much attention to this conversation. There was something wrong here, and having a person who could vanish made him uneasy, since it meant that they could pop up behind him, and there was little to nothing he could do about it. We should worry more about Vance than what he can do. Well, you're never going to be a good fighter if you only worry about the person and never what they are capable of. Well, I'm not a fighter. I'm a street rat whose life became a mess. You're saying that life on the streets wasn't a mess, Micha? Well, it was, which is why I ended up here, but at least I could feel like the helplessness wasn't entirely my fault. Sure, makes sense. My friend doesn't seem to be here, so come on, let's get out of here. Are you sure of that? He asked. She waves her hands about the place, a soft film of something sort of going out around her, and then coming back. Yes, for the most part. His essence isn't floating around here, and we need to get back to the castle. Okay, one last question before we go. Were you sent by the king and queen to watch over me? Well, I was never told to keep an eye on you, per se, though there were king and queenly instructions to make sure I was around you in case things went wrong. My life would have been so much easier had I known that sooner. It is a good thing to learn to ask questions about people before you just run around with them. Now we should go. Are you going to whisk me away? I suppose I could. It would be much faster than walking. He felt her somewhat rough hand grab at his arm, which surprised him, and he almost jumped away. A glance over earned him an amused look from the witch. Scared? Always, when there's a vanishing criminal about. You're learning. Hold on, and perhaps close your eyes. He was about to ask why when a flash of bright light blinded him. The only thing that Micha could tell was that his footing was now different. There was perhaps soft grass under his feet, instead of the packed dirt of a house. But unable to see much of anything still, he stood there rather dumbfounded, and wondered if he might be able to do what this witch did at some point, or maybe some day. Then discarded that thought, since he never had that kind of luck. "Are you good?" "I can't see, Bree." I warned you to close your eyes, but your vision should return in a minute or two. And now for more important things. Your Highness!" "Well, he's certainly back sooner than expected." "As things occurred, Your Highness," Bree said. Micha's back prickled at hearing the Queen's voice. He was probably now somewhere safe, but he hadn't learned anything or much of anything. He got himself into a lot of trouble, but also some weird stuff happened, so he might be worth keeping around, Your Highness." "Well, good to know, Bree. And what did you learn, mister?" Me, Queen? Not much. Vance is out there trying to make a name for himself, when some sort of righteous figure bringing about the change he wants, or so it seems." It was a desperate guess by Micha, but he had so far experienced some of it, though granted it had all happened before he knew the king and queen. "You found out nothing, then?" "He wasn't telling me much to go off of, and he wanted me dead to keep me from talking, so that's all I have." "So then he then thinks you know something." Micha offered a shrug in return to the Queen, and began to blink. Slowly things were beginning to come back into view. "And now he knows that I am involved, which isn't good for you, Your Highness." "And why is that, my witch?" "He might think I am a worthy target to take out on this mission, and move forward whatever plans he has for you and the king. But we don't know what his mission is for sure, other than some aim at this kingdom, Bree." The prickling sensation that he was going to have to do something crossed the back of Micha's neck. It likely would be dangerous, and he didn't want to do that much. He didn't want to do that kind of work anymore. "Well, a thought came to me you could send someone back to where all of this started," Micha offered. "You think we haven't investigated the explosion sites, or his old business, Micha?" "I was only thinking about his business by the docks. It had a lot of workers who were temporary who would probably talk." "They might not as well, unless supplied with a good reason to do so." "I was thinking about that as well, Bree. It's not that they don't want to talk, it's who they're willing to talk to." The Queen, who he can now see in front of him, standing a few feet away, smirked at him. "You think they would talk to you?" He had to frown at the question from the Queen. There was a chance of yes, but also a very good chance of no. No matter what he said, there would be problems with what happened next. They could, they might, and I think you need to find someone from the streets who doesn't have the smell of nobility on them. I think I might be starting to get that stench, so they might not be willing to talk to me." "Well, yes, that's true, but I don't know if we have time for that anymore. We don't have much time for anything, really, because so much is going on lately. Isn't that right, Bree?" "What do you mean, my queen?" Bree asked. "You helped Rexon here out with a young lady," the Queen pointed out. Well, his associates were trying to bring her powers into focus. I don't know why that's such a bad thing," Bree replied. "We need some control over magic and how things are done. If the world simply lets everyone wake up their powers, we would have chaos." "Well, Your Highness, it would be fun, though." I don't want to interrupt, but what's going on, ladies?" "Your little experiment with your friend, Aurora was her name. Hasn't worked out, but it was a nice try," Queen Lizzie said. Micha frowned, thinking back to her wondering when he'd actually given over the herbs and spices or whatever they were to the 3 idiots, but he couldn't remember that, so he figured that they had probably snuck into his room and stolen him. Honestly, I was doing this mostly to be left alone by some people from your court who are planning something all on their own, Micha protested. Exactly my point. There is more going on than I can keep track of. You need to go down to the docks and find out what is going on now, Micha. Like, right now, Your Highness? Yes! He looks to the witch, who is looking way back towards the castle that looms over them. There would be no help from her. Can I at least get some rest and tackle this in the morning? Fine. I will give you 12 hours of downtime. With the Queen dismissing him, Micha had gone straight to his room after that conversation, and after having managed to get some food and rest, both of which were far too short for his liking, as he was now wide awake and the moonlight shifted in. There was a quick knock on the door, which opened as Aurora came in, looking rather worried. Do you have a minute? Yes, but not much of one, if I'm being honest. That stuff that was given to me by those guys? Yeah, the fools, I've decided to call them. The herbs and spices, or whatever it is. Those gentlemen wanted to give you to wake up the powers. Yes, the items. You wanted to know about them? I can't tell you much about them, other than the names of them, which I'm sure you were already told. Also, they were given to me by the witch Bree, and are said to awaken the magic within the person. No idea if any of it's true or not, but that's what I was told. Yes, nothing happened for me. That's what I wanted to talk about. You could go talk to the witch. She's probably a better source of information. Yeah, no, I thought about that, but I wanted to hold off and talk to you first. Plus, I don't think I can get away from my mother long enough to actually go see the witch. A thought occurred to Micha as he sat on his bed. Potentially, he could help her out in keeping her mother away for at least a little while, but it would be a challenge, and Aurora might say no in the first place. And so might her mother. Well, what did you want to ask me about? Did that stuff work on you? The fools, as you call them, said that you looked different from when you went into the woods. I can't say that for sure if I was given any herbs or spices, if it did, or if it was all just naturally me. Maybe the witch gave me some stuff. Well, the witch definitely gave me some stuff, but I don't know if it was the same stuff. It might have been Bree who helped me along. But then again, the powers did sort of wake up after meeting her, so best bet, it's probably going to talk to that wicked witch and see what she says. I was afraid you were going to say that. She pouted and she stood by the door, looking forlornly at it, thinking of something. I hate to sort of sound off and weird, but does your mother ever leave the castle or is allowed to leave? Well, she can leave, yes, but generally does not do so, Aurora said. Well, I'm about to head out to the docks, and I might invite her along. Good cover for me for why I'm there and look the way I do. I'm not following you at all. What do you mean? I have a job that requires some subterfuge, and she could provide cover for that. I'll come up with some story that's not fully involved yet, but it will get her away from the castle. Oh, if she goes along with it. Yes, Micha said, happy that she was getting the point. Tell her to meet me by the front gate in 3 hours to talk. Aurora was shaking her head at the thought as she slipped out of the room. The cold night still circled about Micha as he stood by the front gate of the castle. It was quiet except for the crunching of approaching footsteps. A cloaked figure approached and then pulled off the hood after a moment, revealing that it was indeed Jane, Aurora's mother. Well, what am I doing out this late at night, or this early in the morning, mister? I needed your help, Miss Jade. My daughter did say that, but she didn't specify exactly what you meant by that, and I couldn't get it out of her. If you could explain to me, please. I'm going on a mission for the kingdom, down to the docks. This earned him a raised eyebrow as she took a step forward into the torchlight to make sure he could see her. You will have to do better than that for an explanation, Jade asked. The royals suspect that someone down at the docks is trying to ruin things for them. They want someone to go find out about Vance, Lord Vance, who owned a business down there to give them a better perspective. I'm the person they're sending, and you're my cover, Micha offered. I've heard of Lord Vance, never seen him, though. He's the man behind the recent explosions, or claimed to be at least. I need to go find out what he was up to at the docks and see if we can gather information. And why would I be interested in doing this? You don't want to have a little fun and adventure in your life? Micha said to try and entice Jade. I have plenty of that, and it's mostly revolving around my bed. Do you? So you're turning down this offer to see a different side of the capital of our fair city of Usk? I didn't say no, though. What's in it for me? A chance to get out and see the world? Mr. Rexon, you think I haven't done that? He looks her over from head to toe, trying to decide if he should comment on that. It felt like a trap if he did, but what else was there to do? I think you have, but how much have you seen of the average person, and how much have you seen of it lately? More than enough of it. Granted, I've spent more time in the presence of the royals lately than out and about the past 20 years or so. What plans exactly do you have? A royal with a few guards is out to explore a bit, to the town, get into a fight with their servant loudly, who would be me. Then I go off searching for information. You're free to do whatever you wish after our little fake argument. As long as it doesn't lead me into trouble? Micha could only offer a shrug of uncertainty. The king probably would be displeased if something were to happen to her, as well as the queen, as well as Aurora, so it was probably best if nothing led her to trouble, but he could not guarantee it. For you, yes, but you'll probably have the best guards looking after you. I'm sure the king and queen will assign those to you. Fine, I suppose we shall do this, but I suspect that you're up to something else. I would never, Miss Jade, and I'm also not smart enough to pull off something on that level. She merely eyed him as a cadre of personal guards began joining them for the night out. The docks were coming to life under the early morning sun as Micha patrolled the area. His argument with Jade had been a loud one and drew a fair amount of attention in the late night, early morning crowd. They'd split ways, with him now hurrying away and her headed off to who knew where. It also didn't take long for him to find out that he'd picked up a bit of a tail on his little journey, which is why he was about to duck down an alleyway, only to see it was already occupied by several people who were blocking the way already. You, a voice said from behind him. Me? Micha protested. Yeah, come with us. Why would I, sir? People want to talk to you. Okay, what kind of people? This big, burly, surly man, who came across more as a barrel than a man, approached rapidly from the alleyway. When Micha was within grasping distance, he leaned down to look him into the eyes. Micha, of course, wasn't that short of a person, but this man was that large. Those are the orders. You can either follow with your head on straight or knocked out. It doesn't matter to me which happens. For a moment, Micha thought about reaching for his magic, but his job was to learn stuff. Doing that right now would not help him. Can you at least give me an idea of where we might be headed? That way. The meaty hand was pointed off towards the ships that were moored and docked in the area. None of these vessels looked to be in good condition. Well then, I suppose I'm at your disposal. You need to lead the way to where we are going, though. A rough set of hands pulled him back so that the barrel of a person could get past. This group, an assortment of 5 or 6 people, 2 of which were ladies, and all who looked like they would rather kill him than be doing this, began leading him away. The march didn't take long, as they were directed to a nearby ghostly ship that had seen many, many days, and better ones, very long ago. Go aboard that ship, the man demanded. Can I ask, who am I meeting? You'll find out up there. Go already. It was a rough shove towards the gangplank, and so up he went. The sun shined what light it could on the ill-looking deck of this ship. There were patches and spaces missing in it, along with strands of rope that could only blow in the breeze. Heavy, heavy footsteps drew Micha's attention across the deck to see a heavy-set woman emerge from below, one leg ending in the stump of wood. What do we have here? A person who was ordered to get aboard your ship or face consequences. They claim that you wanted to talk to me, so? Yes, I did, sir. You made a scene earlier. Royals will do what they want, miss. You're not a very good liar, so stop before it causes you more problems than you can deal with. I was at the little shindig at the palace the other day, and I clearly saw you hanging out with the royals. Well, that's good to know. How may I help you, lady? I was thinking more along the lines of how can I help you out? What are you doing around here and hoping to achieve? Micha blanched for the moment, trying to figure out what he could say and not say. The less, the better off for him, and there was also a chance that if he didn't say enough, it would be bad for him. Choices and the chance he had to take were not adding up to nice, easy math. So what do you know about this situation? He asked her. I know that the government is looking into this mysterious bombings, so I'm guessing that you would be a part of that. I'm looking into things, trying to find a wayward lord who is doing his own thing that goes against what the royals want. I'm guessing you mean the one you left with the night of the party, and not the other one you talked to? Micha was nodding yes, but he felt uneasy. Why did I attract your attention during that event? The lady offered a shrug of amusement. One finds things to amuse themselves with during such events where mostly it is boring, and since I can't really dance... She pointed down to the stub of her leg and let the conversation go. The first one who talked to me, Lord Quad, has nothing to do with this as far as I am aware. It is Lord Vance who I am seeking, and he employed me to do a job before the explosions, and yes, he was the one who took me away. You're looking to stop him? She asked. Micha offered a shrug. Well, capture him, preferably. If you know where he is, it would make my life easier. Much easier for everyone, really. But I'm sure you wouldn't, not without some sort of trade of goods. Yes, one has to watch out for themselves, don't they? Well, yeah, it's only fair. So what are you seeking? The big lady spread her hands out to signify the ship that they stood on. You can probably guess. A new one, or fix up this wreck? Whichever one the government will approve. I'm not picky, and I understand these things are a negotiation. I'll do what I can as long as you direct me to the information on Lord Vance. I can do you one better. I'll take you to the place that will provide you some good clues, okay? You just can't give me the answers? Not out here, no, mister. Too many eyes and ears listening when they shouldn't be. Micha didn't like the sound of that for the obvious reasons, and that he would be required to go off with someone to somewhere that he didn't know. nor could he trust her completely, and there was little chance in the matter right now unless he did something stupid and tried to find it all on his own. Where would we be going, Miss Captain? I'm guessing you're a captain. There's a bar not far from here that is friendly to me. There's some information there. And what's your name, so we have things to go on? Well, I'm surprised you don't recognize me, Mr. Rexon of the Royal Court. After all, I'm one of the more popular people in this district, and you, sir, have been in this area for a long time. A moment of panic shot through Micha as he tried to remember this lady. Nothing, though, was coming to him, and that probably wouldn't be an acceptable answer. I've had a lot going on lately, where everything is mashing together into one memory. If you'll forgive me for not knowing. This once, sure, I'll do that. The name is Lady Cruel Summers, at your service. A pleasure to meet you. He had unconsciously offered his hand to shake. She ignored it and headed for the plank to get off the boat. Unintentionally, his hand had sort of followed her as she began walking away, still waiting for it to be shaken. Come now, places to be and see, information to gather. They cut their way through the throngs of the crowd, busy getting to work in this late morning. A few hellos were directed towards Lady Cruel, but otherwise they were ignored until they got near to the end of the docks. There were a few bars here, and a few other shops here as well, mostly run down, and not a place one wanted to go to usually. Cruel paid no attention to any of this as she went towards the furthest one. This is our stop. The busty barmaid? Names can mean a lot or very little. All depends on how you look at things. And with that, she was through the door, with Micha hurrying in behind her. The interior of this bar was desolate, with no one around and in need of a lot of fixing up. Twice Micha had stepped on what he thought was solid wood floor, only to find his foot meeting not much, and sinking into whatever was below. It took him only a moment of being off balance for him to yank himself back up, though. So, what's here, Lady Cruel? A bartender had appeared and come over holding up 3 mugs of some sort of drink. The mostly toothless smile he gave them was not comforting to look at. Well, Vance, of course. The Lord Vance is here? Well, he should be soon. Did you just did you lead me into a trap of some sort? No. You wanted to get him, and this was the quickest way to do that. I wanted to learn about him, and then maybe go see and talk to him. This is a problem. Well, you can ask me all you want about him before he arrives. I'm not sure how much information I can give you, though. A curse and a swear came to Micha's mouth, but he stopped himself from actually expressing those out loud. It wouldn't do any good, and this lady was much bigger than him, which meant she could probably manhandle him and anything he said at her. Do you know what the Lord is planning? He finally managed to ask. No, not really. Well, there are whispers to the stuff he's up to. Can you explain those whispers a little? Yes. Take over the government sort of thing. Install one that's more pro-business or something to that effect. That sounded right to Micha, and also way too simple. Could Vance be that easy to figure out? After all he'd done the other day to get him away from the castle and people, Micha decided he wasn't completely ready to buy that excuse yet. So he would be in power? Oh, no, I don't think so. Someone else I think about, or I heard about anyway. Another lord or lady or someone who has more power and sway within the kingdom, or is supposed to anyway. I don't really know. So you don't have any idea who they might be targeting or who might be behind all of this? Who are you talking about? Ah, Mr. Vance, we were talking about you, that is all. Micha turned around to see the harried-looking Lord Vance with narrowed eyes, still leaning on a cane. He stood in the doorway with a little bit of a sneer coming to his face when he saw it was Micha. Yes, it's my turn to ask you questions, Mr. Vance, since you left so abruptly from that farmhouse without doing so. I do hope you will cooperate. End of Part 8 of Tangled in a Criminal World. Thank you for listening.